Biofuels by Andrew Geit, Nikki Cannon, and Ryan Matheson. This is a chart of the biomass fuel cycle. We will be focusing on biofuels. Each of these sources of energy are derived from sustainable and renewable products. Biofuel production. First-generation biofuels are made from edible sugars and starches. Second-generation biofuels are made from non-edible plant materials. And third-generation biofuels are made from algae and other microbes. Ethanol, which is made up of 2 carbons, 6 hydrogens, and 1 oxygen. Ethanol is a first-generation biofuel. It is derived from sugars and starches. Ethanol is used as a fuel additive. In Brazil, gasoline contains at least 25% ethanol. New vehicles produced in Brazil are able to operate on 100% ethanol, or 95% ethanol and 5% water. The United States has fuel called E85, which contains 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline. In the United States, most gasoline contains up to 10% ethanol. Ethanol production. In Brazil, ethanol is produced from sugarcane. Sugarcane contains higher amounts of sucrose than corn. Sucrose is much easier to extract from sugarcane than corn. In the United States, fuel ethanol is derived mostly from corn. The image on the right is of an ethanol plant that produces ethanol from sugarcane, and on the left, a plant that produces ethanol from corn. This is a chart of the ethanol production process. Ethanol that is derived from sugarcane. As you can see, it is a process of fermentation. How much ethanol is in the world? Global Renewable Fuel Alliance forecasted ethanol production to be 23.4 billion gallons in 2011, reducing the need for 1 million barrels of crude oil per day worldwide. This is a 3% growth from 2010. The United States is the largest producer of ethanol in the world at 13.5 billion gallons in 2011. This equates to 57% of the world's ethanol production. Ethanol in numbers. World ethanol production in million liters. Europe at 5,467. Africa 170. The Americas at 79,005. The Asia Pacific 4,077, with a world total of 88,719 million liters of ethanol produced in 2011. Benefits of ethanol. Ethanol reduces vehicle emissions of carbon monoxides, oxides of nitrogen, and other ozone-forming pollutants. Ethanol is a renewable energy source. It is domestically produced and reduces oil imports as well as greenhouse gases. Ethanol also creates job opportunities. In 2011, nearly 400,000 jobs related to ethanol production were in the United States. Disadvantages of ethanol. Ethanol contains less energy than gasoline, which results in lower fuel economy. Energy used to grow crops comes from coal and natural gas sources. Ethanol as fuel does not replace energy used to produce. This graph shows a comparison of fuel economy between pure gasoline and gasoline containing 10% ethanol. These are images of ethanol plants. Second-generation biofuel conversions. There are 2 processes. The first, biochemical. The biochemical process is based on enzymatic hydrolysis of lignocellulosic material through a variety of enzymes that break down cellulosic materials into sugar. The second step is to ferment sugars into alcohol, which is then distilled into ethanol. The second process is thermochemical. The first step in this process is gasification of feedstock under high temperatures into synthesis gas. Gas can be transformed into types of liquid or gaseous fuels, also called synthetic fuels. This is a chart of second-generation biofuels and the processes of production. Third-generation biofuels, which are algae and other microbes. Algae yields high amounts of oil and biomass. The use of algae as a biofuel reduces competition with agricultural lands. Fully sustainable growth and production. Algae yields low carbon emissions when used as fuel. It is grown in shallow lagoons or ponds and can be cultivated photosynthetically using sunlight for energy and CO2 as a carbon source. Third generation biofuels continued. Algae may be grown heterotrophically, meaning no sunlight, using sugar for energy and carbon. Solazyme in April 2012 announced a joint venture with Bunge, developing a commercial-scale oil production facility in Brazil. Using Solazyme technology to convert sugar to tailored oils, partnership with Chevron, as well as a contract with the United States Navy to provide 450,000 gallons of algal biofuels for trials. Solazyme is also working to produce soladiesel, a diesel biofuel from algae. Financial, political, and technological limitations on biofuels. Financial limitations on biofuels. The use of ethanol as a biofuel has raised many questions on its efficiency and potential as a sole source of energy. Ethanol is by far the major biofuel in the United States, but has some distribution limitations and lower energy content than petroleum-derived gasoline. The United States is spending billions of dollars on ethanol, but the financial expectations are not being met. Political limitations. Despite the many advantages associated with alternative sources of energy, there are limitations as well. With biofuel, the controversy is focused around the energy-intensive process necessary for its production. Moral questions have also been raised about diverting food crops, such as corn and sugarcane, for biofuel production when people are going hungry. The increased use of corn for ethanol has contributed to a variety of effects, from rising food prices due to higher ingredient costs, tighter supplies for other commodities such as soybeans and wheat as more acres are pulled into corn production, higher feed costs for livestock producers, and reduced food aid shipments due to higher costs. During periods of recession, alternative energy research and production often takes a back seat to what are perceived as more immediate needs, especially when developing additional energy output for renewable energy sources like solar, hydrogen, and wind energy. There is considerable discussion about whether the necessary expenditures are financially feasible. However, other commentators insist that spending money on addressing environmental concerns should not be abandoned, and in fact, they may even contribute to eventual economic recovery. Technological limitations on biofuels. The main issue with the use of biofuels is the production and distribution. If we were to use every crop in the United States for biofuel, it still would only account for 15% of current fuel needs. Technological advances are being made every day to increase the energy output of different biofuels. The future of biofuels. With near record oil prices, the future of biofuel made from plant material is of keen interest worldwide. Global biofuel production has tripled from 4.8 billion gallons in 2000 to about 16 billion in 2007, but still accounts for less than 3% of the global transportation fuel supply. Many uncertainties remain for the future of biofuels, including competition from unconventional fossil fuel alternatives and concerns about environmental trade-offs. Perhaps the biggest uncertainty is the extent to which the land intensity of current biofuel production can be reduced. The amount of biofuel that can be produced from an acre of land varies from 100 gallons per acre for EU rapeseed to 400 gallons per acre for US corn, and 660 gallons per acre for Brazilian sugarcane. The future of biofuels seems hopeful. There are many advantages, such as eco-friendly waste, but disadvantages as well, such as increasing crop prices. For the most part, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Biofuel in Idaho. In Idaho, the most common use of biofuel is as biodiesel and ethanol for gas. Idaho has the second highest per capita diesel use rate in the United States. But there is not as much biofuel produced here as there is want for biodiesel because of a lack of facilities, especially that of seed processing plants. This is an image of a biodiesel processing refinery. Opportunity for growth. In 2007, Diversified Fuels announced that it wanted to build the largest oilseed plant in the Northwest in Buell, Idaho. It plans on spending $30 million on the first phase of production. There are already 40 individuals and groups making biofuel in the state of Idaho. This will give the state economic growth and job opportunity. What can you do? Many of us cannot go out and buy a new car, but there are still many things you can do to help with the energy crisis. Alternative methods to reducing fuel use: walking, biking, or taking a bus. Finding ways to simply reduce the amount of oil we use and depend on may be necessary. What else can you do? When you can buy a new car, pay attention to the kind of gas it will use. Look for fuel efficiency. Biofuel will help support our love of cars while allowing us not to harm the environment. Thank you.